Thank you so much for coming. We're so excited to be here, to be teaching classes here inside of Upgrade, and that you all were excited to come in and do some learning for this first class of ours. So I am Andrea Sprague. I am the holistic chef. I have been a health supportive chef for over 15 years, and I specialize in food allergies, special diets, helping people change their diets to a little bit healthier, especially after maybe a health scare, things like that. And my co-teacher here is Kahiki. Her company is Eat Clean, Be Whole. She is a functional nutritionist, and we love doing these things together because we have such a shared passion for food and what it can do to help us feel better when we find the right balance for us, because we're all so bio-individually unique. And we love pairing this with Upgrade. And I know we have a lot of members here, so like you're already here doing things for your body in kind of an unconventional way. And so we're gonna put some nutrition onto that. So Kahiki has, she's going to be taking us through some slides and doing some teaching, and then we're going to break in the middle. I've got some things for us here that we're going to taste throughout the class, and they all have to do with what she's teaching us. So we'll kind of break like in the middle and at the end, and I've got some things for you to taste. All right, so go ahead and get us started.
Okay, so real quick, icebreaker question. Who has tried dieting? If you're willing to go there with me, too vulnerable, right out the gate, I get it. But I'll be the first to raise my hand. Who has tried dieting before? It's like you guys live in America. Okay. Guilty. Before I discovered nutrition, I am half Hawaiian. I used to eat like a Hawaiian. And that caught up with me once upon a time. And once upon a time, I was 60 pounds overweight. I tried yo-yo dieting, realized that was not the answer. I remember getting sick of feeling sick. The inflammation is now what I know what it was. And I did not feel comfortable in my body. And I was in my 20s, and I thought, this is too young to feel this way. And so I started to go down the rabbit hole. And what's funny is I started to go to school for nursing. And I'm grateful for the work nurses do. But I realized that I actually wanted to be on more of a proactive side of health, and totally changed the course of my education to nutrition and fell in love, haven't regretted it. So you get to go down the rabbit hole with me today. And the thing is, I'm not teaching you anything that's not about you. This is why it's so fascinating to me, and it never gets old. This world is always evolving. So what I say today will evolve tomorrow, and this is why I'm always studying. I do not trust anybody in this field that got the degree and called it good. We are supposed to be studying this every day because it is evolving that much. So if you look on the wall over there, the definition of biohacking, I'm going to talk about its close relative today. Bio-individuality. That is the fancy way of saying that it is not a one-size-fits-all. What works for me might not work for you. I'm going to talk about some of the most nutrient-dense foods on planet Earth. But your unique biology might not like some of these foods, and you need to honor that. And I'm going to teach you how to identify what foods do and do not work with your body. And I cannot tell you how many adults I see that have no idea what those foods are. It's actually rare to me when I get a client that knows what their reactive foods are. And maybe that's even a new word to you, and that's okay. I would be surprised if you knew what that meant. So health, this is my added definition of what health is. It has to support not just your physical health. It needs to support your mental health. It needs to support your own unique biology, and lifestyle. And we are all very different in that way. I used to do triathlons before my hormones said not right now. Conversation for another day. But I used to do triathlons, and my diet for that was completely different. That was my lifestyle at the time. So there's an example. Right now, it's a hormone balancing lifestyle, and I can't stress my body out like that for the time being, for midlife hormones. Okay, so lifestyle matters. Your biology matters. Some of us do have genetics that we need to be mindful of. Just because we have things in our genetics doesn't mean they are going to be expressed. And I need you to understand that you have power over a lot of that. Okay, so the foundation. I'm going to get heady and nerdy on you just a little bit. I can't help it. Andrea knows how I roll. And she'll give me the look if I start to go too far. I am the kid in high school that loved biology, I will admit it. But it has served me well in nutrition. And honestly, you're only as healthy as your cells. You're only as healthy as your cells. And what affects that is your food. And so I'm going to start with, everybody thinks of calories, right? This is kind of the old school way of thinking. Calories in versus calories out. If I track that and I eat a little less calories than what I should be taking in, I'll lose some weight. Yes, but. So that's the old way of thinking. But, big but, the quality of those calories matters because they are messages to your cells of whether you are fighting or cultivating disease. Not to be extreme and a drama queen about it, but the same message over and over will start to be manifested in the body. So, what is that message based on the foods that you're regularly bringing in? Can you have a one-off treat? Absolutely. You know what I do with my clients? They get a treat meal once a week. I say, don't even tell me what it is. I don't care. Let your hair down. Go have fun. Stay sane. Have a burger once in a while. That's okay. Because if 80% of the time you're in a state of health, your body can handle that. Okay? It's possible. You can do it. So, calories, giving you the very basic definition of calories is, it's a unit of energy. So knowing that calories is energy, you want to be smart about when you eat that energy. So, am I going to need a lot of energy before I rest at night? No. And you can guess what your body does with that excess energy if you don't use it. It is stored. And there's not many people that I know, unless you're an endurance athlete, that's lifestyle again, unless you're an endurance athlete, you want it stored. Everybody else, I don't think you want it stored. So that's not, at night, my dinners are really lean. They are protein, fiber meaning veggies, okay? I don't need an excess of calories right before I go to bed. I am not trying to store anything because I don't have a triathlon the next day, okay? Macronutrients, that's your protein, fats, and carbs. We'll get into that in a minute. And your micronutrients, that's when I start to get nerdy. That's when I get the most excited because that is the disease-fighting stuff. That's your vitamins and your minerals. That's the stuff that breathes life into you literally. Okay, so let's take it a step further. Calories. What do they do? That is a very basic list of what calories do for us. So are they important? Yes. So if you are not getting sufficient calories based on your age, weight, height, and activity level, and there's a way to calculate that, by the way. These calculators are online. Us nutritionists know the formula, but they're online too. Okay? When I do a meal plan, I calculate how many calories your specific body needs based on your age, your weight, your height, and your activity level. Then if you tell me I'm trying to lose weight and if I see that you are a little bit overweight, I will subtract 10%. That is a safe number. If you go more than that, you can get in a hormonal imbalance. Side note there. So if you go too low on the calories, your body goes into survival mode and hangs on. It doesn't want to let fat go after a while. Okay, and I tell you that because that's important. A lot of us women kill ourselves. Not only do we go too far on subtracting calories, then we become cardio bunnies. So we're not getting enough energy, and then we're depleting what little energy we have on top of it. And that is a recipe for a hormone imbalance. Also not great for mental health, okay? But calories are necessary. You can't just go really low on calories. We all need it to a degree. You just need to be wise about when you eat them. Breakfast and lunch is ideal for calories. In the morning, great. You just fasted all night. Someone's going to ask me about intermittent fasting, I know it. And unless you have a hormone imbalance, I would say be careful with intermittent fasting because you need to have a steady blood sugar. And if that's the case, you do need to eat breakfast. You cannot skip it. So there are exceptions. This is why bio-individuality matters. Your circumstance matters, okay? And by the way, if you do intermittent fasting, I do not recommend doing it for more than 2 weeks at a time. Take breaks, 2-week breaks, 2 weeks on, off, don't stay there. Your body will adjust, it plateaus. So calories do a lot for us. Again, the quality of those calories matter because they are messages to your cells and to your body. What are the messages you're sending? So I get a little nerdy here, but you need to know what's happening in your body. I really feel like if I can help you understand what's happening when you eat these foods, I help you to have more of an awareness before you grab these foods. And if I can do that much, you win. That awareness is a slight pause that was not there before. So before you reach for that sugar-loaded donut or the sugar-loaded coffee first thing in the morning, you're going to say, oh wait, that's going to spike my blood sugar first thing in the morning. That's going to make me have cravings the rest of the day. That's going to make my body start fat storing mode immediately upon waking up. That is not going to serve me and the life that I deserve to live. That's not longevity. That's not energy, right? It's the opposite of what you deserve. So awareness, pause. The food we eat is broken down, absorbed into our bloodstream, and eventually reaches every cell in our body. So think about that. Everything you eat reaches every cell. It's not selective. We, again, are only as healthy as our cells, and the health of our cells is determined by the food that we eat. So macronutrients. There are 3 macronutrients right there in front of you, okay? A lot of us nutritionists focus on these 3, especially if you go to a gym and you work with the trainer there. They focus on those 3. Those are the nutrients the body requires in larger amounts. If you go to an integrative nutritionist, we will take it a step further and we will break down those micronutrients further into, or those macros into micronutrients and say the micronutrients of those proteins and those carbs and those fats also matter. Meaning, let me give you an example. I've had bodybuilders come to me. I need to build weight. I've had football players from both U of U and BYU. And their coaches just care about them putting on weight. Word for word, their coach said, I don't care how you put on the weight, but you have to put on the weight. You need to put on at least 20 pounds by the end of the month. And if that means you eat a Little Caesars pizza every night before bed, you do it. Now, this guy came to me eventually because he had fatty liver disease. So you can imagine how that was like nails on a chalkboard for me, right? His liver could not afford to take that hit. The fats in that pizza is so inflammatory. And I said to him, I said, you have 1 liver and it cannot afford that load. You came to me to heal, and that is doing the opposite. So I'm here to help you heal. I'm not trying to contradict your coach, but it's not weight gain just for the sake of weight gain. There is a healthy way to do it, but it's going to take longer. I will say the same thing with fat loss. There's a healthy way to do it, but it will take longer. Anything good is worth waiting for. And I repeat that again and again and again. Because your mind has to change too. That is your set point. You know, when people go on these crash diets, guilty, and you lose the weight fast, but you didn't change the habits and the mentality that got you there in the first place, guess what you're going to revert to? After month 3, which, by the way, is the fall-off point for most people. That's the statistics. 3 months is usually the fall-off for dieting. For that reason, we didn't change the mindset that got us there to begin with. That is our mind. That's our most important work, because this will follow. So taking this a step further, let's talk about those macros. There's clean carbs and dirty carbs, right? They're simple and complex. Anytime when I say simple, I'm sure you're all thinking what? What kind of carbs? Or white carbs. But you're nailing it, that's what they are. When you metabolize those, it's just like metabolizing sugar. When you metabolize sugar, guess what your body does? Stores it as fat. That's one of the first things it does. Sugar, by the way, is one of the top inflammatory foods. Sugar is also one of the 5 top reactive foods or food sensitivities to people. If you have any gut issues, one of the first things I would say remove from your diet is sugar. It feeds the unhealthy bacteria in your gut. It feeds cancer. And there's some people that'll try to contradict that. Sugar is so acidic. It is so inflammatory. So now let me be very clear though. Sugar in the form of fruit is not, because it is paired with fiber. That is not going to spike your blood sugar. That is metabolized very differently than if you just ate something sugary. That will not spike your blood sugar. You need to know the difference. But if you juice that fruit and you remove the fiber, now you are getting a sugar drink. So I know people think they're doing the healthy thing by juicing, and it's a great idea, and there is a place for juicing, but I would say if you're going to juice, mostly veggies, 1 fruit. Okay? So carbohydrates is the body's main preferred, I should say, source of energy. You can also get it by healthy fats, by the way, if there's not enough carbs in the system. Conversation for another day. So I need to make a side note here. You will not see carbs up there with gluten. Don't be mad at me for it. I don't like gluten. I do not have an intolerance. I do not have celiac disease. But I know gluten is really hard on the gut. If you don't know what gluten is, it is the protein found in wheats that gives it this sticky, you stick your finger in bread and it comes right out, that's gluten. It's the protein found in wheat. The way it is processed in the United States is different than anywhere else. It's shorter. The protein in it is even shorter and more harmful to the gut. I have so many issues with our food system, I can't even tell you. But I especially do not trust gluten in the United States. And it is one of the other 5 top reactive foods in the United States for that reason. It's not true gluten, and even then gluten is hard on the gut. So anytime I can take off stress on my gut, I do it. Because if you think about it, your gut, they say it's the root of health, and there's so much truth to that. If you think about it, it takes the hit from the outside world all the time. Anything you put in your mouth, your gut has to deal with it. It takes hits over and over, and you want that working smoothly. If not, if it's compromised, it then is releasing inflammatory cytokines in your body, which means inflammation throughout the rest of your body. If you already have inflammation or a disease, it is feeding that inflammation, okay? And most of your, I would say 75 to 80% is what they're saying now, of your immune system lines your gut. So if your gut is now compromised and it's been taking hits over and over, the lining of your gut is starting to separate. These are the cells of your gut. If it's a healthy gut, they're tight together, nothing's getting past it. Over time, if it's taking hits, inflammatory foods, American diet, right? They start to separate. Food particles, bacteria, things make it past that were never meant to. And when that happens, guess what's happening? Your immune system's being called to back up over and over. Guess how tired your immune system is? It's sick of you. It's sick of being overworked. And so when one of the things that are directly correlated with a compromised gut is a compromised immune system for that reason, because it's tired. So when you heal your gut, you start to improve your immune system, okay? So you guys are welcome, by the way, to take pictures or write this down. I want you to have this information. I want you to leave here feeling empowered, like not overwhelmed, but empowered, that you know what to do leaving here, okay? But these are some of my favorites. But I typically don't eat these at night, I will tell you that, but that's for me. But my lifestyle is I'm balancing my hormones, my midlife hormones, okay? If you have an active job, these might be a good idea for you at night with dinner, because you're getting up first thing in the morning and being active. If you work out in the morning, you may want to consider that for dinner, okay? Now these are 3 essential nutrients: fiber, protein, and fats. Someone's going to say, where's the carbs? We love our carbs, okay? Notice it's actually non-essential. Essential means your body can't make it on its own and you have to eat it in order to get it. Fiber, protein, and fats are essential. You have to eat them in order to get them. Not carbs. Carbs are not considered essential, believe it or not. But you have to eat these. And I will tell you how I build my plate. The first things I put on, protein and fiber. Fats, especially with hormones and inflammation, by the way. After that, everything else is if I have room. Those are the priority. Okay? Now this is important to know too. Every cell in the body is surrounded by what's called a lipid membrane. When you hear lipid, that means fat. Those membranes in your cells, and again, you're only as healthy as your cells, are half protein, half fat. How important do you think healthy fats and proteins are for your cell health? Cell health is what will determine in many ways whether or not we get a disease or not. Okay? You got to care about your cells, and some of the most important things you can eat for your cells. I know I sound like your mom and your grandma, fruits and veggies, but it's true. Closer to nature you get, the better off you are. The problem is our food system keeps tampering with what is already perfect. We need to stay out of nature's way and we'll be fine, okay? So good and bad fats, right? I see them in the lens of inflammatory and anti-inflammatory. Especially because I see a lot of people with diseases. So I see them based on a lens of inflammation or their inflammation load. I see a lot of cancer patients, autoimmune, gut health. And can you think of, and I bet you guys know, one of the most anti-inflammatory diets, Mediterranean, and it's still on the top of the list. Close runner-up is plant-based. However, I'm always scared to say that because I don't want anybody to just say, she said plant-based. It's a good idea, I should do it. Unless you have cancer, I would say don't just jump off and go do that, because if you don't do your research on that, you can be deficient in several things. I've done plant-based. I did it with a close family member who had cancer. She healed naturally. I will say it is powerful, but you have to know what you're doing or you will be deficient in B12, in calcium, in iron. You've got to know what you're doing on that one. Okay, so be mindful of that. But Mediterranean is awesome because it's high fiber, lots of greens. And by the way, I get really excited about greens because specifically in greens is what's called chlorophyll. It's what gives greens its green color. Photosynthesis, sound familiar? Now we're going to high school biology again. Okay, that is a major blood and cell cleanser. It is actually, chlorophyll is almost identical in structure to your own blood cells. I would supplement that one, exclamation mark, I do. And I do it in the form of kelp. You can get that pill form. You can get it in green powders, alkalizer powders. Chlorophyll is so anti-inflammatory and disease-fighting and excellent for your cells. That one's on the top of my list for micronutrients. You'll see that in a minute. So, American diet, abbreviated SAD for a reason. Standard American diet, okay? That is it right there. I'm not saying, I don't mean to take away all joy here. I'm feeling it. Listen, again, half Hawaiian, been there. And do my kids get this once in a while? Yes, they do. I'm not a total prude, but it's a once a week thing is what I'm telling you, okay? You don't want to spend your time here. You want to spend your time here. Once in a while, you can have a treat here. That's the difference. The problem is, American diet spends too much time here, hence the reason we've seen such an increase in all the diseases that we have seen. There is a direct correlation for a reason. There is no coincidence in that. I want you to be mindful of this, and Andrea will tell you this too. When you cook with these fats, be mindful of how hot, the heat. I don't like to cook above medium with many of those because it can turn them rancid. Free radicals. Makes it rancid and makes it, a good fat will then be inflammatory. Okay, so be mindful of that with these healthy oils. Try not to cook above medium heat if you can help it. Okay, micronutrients. My favorite part. And my favorite way to get these in, juicing or smoothies. Juicing, because the fiber's gone in your blood within 15 to 20 minutes of juicing. Cancer patients, their protocol is they are juicing very organic, first and foremost, alkalizing vegetables and some fruit multiple times a day. That is their most powerful medicine. They're juicing alkaline micronutrients, if you will, and it's in their blood within 15 to 20 minutes of drinking it. Okay? Now, if you leave in the fiber, that is excellent for your gut. So there's a place for both juicing and smoothies, but if you're needing the nutrients like somebody with cancer would, and you need those nutrients immediately, that's when you juice. Both are delicious. You win both ways. Notice I have chlorophyll and turmeric in the middle because they don't technically fall into one category or the other, but dang it, they're important enough to be up there. I don't want you to go out and feel like you have to get all of these supplements. These are up here because these are some of the top players in your health. There are others I could have definitely added, but that just would have been an eyesore for everybody. And these are just the top players, but common deficiencies in America as well. The most common I see, top 4 over here, and magnesium, iron, zinc. By the way, when COVID hit, when it hit New York really hard, I was watching the reports that were coming out of there. Zinc was one of the most common mineral deficiencies coming out of there, which didn't surprise me because zinc is the #1 virus fighter mineral. That's the one they needed the most. And so that did not surprise me, unfortunately. Zinc needs to be in there for many reasons. So I also give you the foods that you can find them in, because I would rather you eat your vitamins. I would rather you, but unfortunately the soil that our foods are grown in, because they're grown so fast the way we now farm, the conventional farming, even our soil is deficient in many of these that we need. So even I supplement a handful of these. Chlorophyll will always be in my supplements. blood cleanser and alkalizer. And I explained that one to you. Turmeric, so anti-inflammatory, specifically curcumin, which is the active ingredient in turmeric. That has been correlated to Alzheimer's. Those that take turmeric have better chances of preventing Alzheimer's. And if you have it, it slows it down. That is a good idea for so many reasons. You can cook with these things, many of these things, okay? These you don't necessarily need to supplement. I don't like to give clients these long lists of supplements unless when I get your blood work back and I say, yeah, you're deficient in these, for now we need to supplement you to get you in balance again. I will also build a meal plan based on those types of foods that I know you need. And I recommend getting blood work done somewhat regularly, 3 to 6 months, to know where you are. How can you help yourself if you don't know where you are? It's a good idea, okay? So again, vegetables are winning. They are highest in both fiber and minerals, both of them. The body's amazing. This is why I do what I do. I'm constantly fascinated with our human body and the way food interacts with it. The body is designed to heal itself. It is self-cleansing and self-healing. And balance can and will be restored if given the right conditions. I have seen it so many times. I've seen it with lupus. I've seen it with cancer. You name it, I have seen it. So I don't just give you fluff. I've seen these things firsthand. Food is that powerful if done right. I'm going to turn it over to Andrea right now.
Okay. I know that's a lot of information, right? So that's why we've broken this up like we have. So the first thing that I'm going to give you a sample of, and actually I've got some recipes here if everyone wants to take one of those. And if I don't have enough, maybe you guys can share. This is my base recipe for a smoothie. So based on everything she just said, I don't know about you, but I will be fully honest. There are days I can go all day and not eat a single fruit. They're not sweet, they're bitter. Like I went and got blueberries, but the minute you go to eat them, they're not sweet. And so you kind of end up leaving them in the fridge. Or I only eat the same fruit over and over. Maybe we eat a banana or an orange and that's it. But from what you just saw about micronutrients and the fiber and all of these things and leafy greens and all of those wonderful things that we need beyond just some protein and fat is we need our vegetables and we need our fruit. And so one way to get it without question is a smoothie. And so I've got a smoothie here for you and I'll pour it for you and then I'll kind of talk about what's in it. So how many of you actually make smoothies at home? All right, we've got, if you had a kitchen? Occasionally, okay. Yes. So there are times when I crave them and times when I don't. If I hand this to someone, you want to like pass it out as I like pour? So there are times that I crave them, times that I don't. The summertime absolutely like crave more. But I want to talk to you a little bit about why I've chosen these ingredients. Because when we're making a smoothie, we don't want to just do a bunch of bananas and sweet fruits. We want the things with the dark polyphenols, the blueberries, the cherries. We want the greens. I put, as you'll see on my list there, this main recipe is what's down the left side. How are we doing?
We need 1, 2, 3, 4.
And so this is the one that I blended before you all got here, and then I'll blend what's in my blender too. All right, so I got 2 more, so at least everyone's sitting down here. And then I'll blend the blender for whoever I didn't get. So I always start with a healthy handful of spinach. Like that, there's a packed thing full of spinach in there. Do any of you taste spinach in there? No. I also, if I have some romaine, I'll throw some romaine in there. If I have microgreens. So part of my point is, like, you can start with like what tastes good. Like this has got mango, blueberry, cherries. It's got the spinach, romaine, a little banana, just a little bit, just because of the sweetness and because it kind of gives it that nicer texture. I don't do a ton of banana because bananas are pretty high glycemic. So it's just a little bit. But if someone had never had a smoothie before, like maybe I might put a little bit more for them. But I want to kind of just show you like this is my base and I think it tastes pretty darn good. It's got almond butter for some protein and then a little bit of almond milk and yeah, and all the other fruit. But then you could get into other things like hemp seeds. Hemp seeds are like super, yeah, they're like a superfood, more protein and a little bit of fat. I could put those in there. I could do chia seeds in here for more of the fiber and the superfood thing. This will thicken your smoothie a little bit though if you let it sit for a while. I could do more almond butter. I could do a protein powder, especially because part of my goal is that this fills you and then you're not hungry again an hour later. Like the idea of a smoothie is to get like all of these wonderful fruits. And like now if I were to, usually this recipe serves 2 and it fills me up to about here and I pour 2 big cups. Hopefully my husband's home because if not, I don't know how to make it just for 1 anymore. And so now I'm left with extra. And like now I've just eaten like 2 cups of fruit for the day and greens and like all this fiber. And like now I can go into the day at least feeling good if I never end up back eating the fruit. So part of what I want to show you is that you can make it filling enough so that it is a real meal and you're not like blood sugar crashing 2 hours later and you're like, oh my God, I'm so hungry, but I'm like out in my day. So you can start adding all kinds of other things to it based on what you like. Oh, I also put some cucumber in there. Again, it's a natural electrolyte, it's fiber, it's water. And I put frozen mango in there. And then, yeah, and then the almond milk. So, enjoy
but how
that.
does that leave you feeling? That's worth noting. Like a treat. Do you feel heavy? Okay, do you feel lethargic? No, because you're eating life, you're eating energy. It's important to note that. So I explain it to clients, do you want to feel alive or do you want to feel dead? Because if you go into a grocery store, and now you're going to see through this lens, hopefully, there are live foods and dead foods. The ones that have heard this are laughing. My clients that have heard this are laughing. It's like, oh, here she goes again. Yes, here I go again. When you walk into a grocery store, the live foods are full of color. They're alive because of the enzymes, the antioxidants, the polyphenols. That's what literally makes them alive and feeds your live cells. That's the colors that you're seeing, okay? Then if you go into the center of the store where things are boxed, you can imagine what I'm going to call those. Those are dead foods, and guess how they make you feel? Yes, so if you want to feel alive, you reach for the colors, you reach for life. You're reaching for energy like you just drank. So reach for the foods based on how you want to feel. Make that correlation, okay? How do you want to feel? Eat that way. How you can learn to discover your reactive foods, you've got to know. You've got to know what foods do not sit with your unique body. And it's important to know that if your gut is compromised, which is honestly most people that I see because most of us live in America, okay? So most people have a compromised gut to a degree. So if your gut is compromised, and again, we're going back to the gut lining and it started to separate, okay? If it's the condition, it's called, if it happens enough, it's called leaky gut. Gets even worse with more unhealthy bacteria growing. It's called Candida. The next layer after that is called H. pylori. Okay, those are the names. But either way, even if it's just a little compromised, you might be hypersensitive to foods that you're not typically. And I see this a lot with clients. So how I will test for that is when I first get a client with gut issues, we'll test them first. Gut, well, not just sensitivities, but we'll also test their blood, okay, because we also need to know if they're deficient. We've got to address it from all angles. Then after 3 months of them hopefully being faithful to their meal plan and the supplements, then we go back and test again. And often what I find is they are not sensitive to half of that long list that they originally were because they've started to heal their gut. And when you start to heal your gut, it is not as reactive. There's a reason we need a balance of things. I'm telling you, we need that balance. So dairy has a lot of the inflammatory fats. If you're getting non-conventional dairy, or you're getting conventional dairy, you're also getting the antibiotics, you're getting the hormones, so you're getting double whammies. You're not just getting the inflammatory fats. Full fat dairy is one of the worst, okay? So I personally lean away from these things. I'll put it that way. Because again, I'm trying to take as much burden off my body as possible to keep it in a state of health. Treats once in a while, fine. But for the most part, lean away. So if you want to test any of these, and even if it's a food you notice you react, let me give you an example. Tomatoes for some clients, nightshade veggies for some clients, lectins, if that rings a bell. If you want to test a food that's not even on here, remove it from your diet for 28 days. That gets it out of your system. Then reintroduce it, and do one at a time, obviously, so it doesn't confuse things. Reintroduce it and pay attention to how your body responds, and it will respond if it doesn't like it. You will know. And how you will know, it's usually a common culprit would be bloat, indigestion, constipation, diarrhea, all the things we don't like to talk about. Anything in this area that is a very good indicator it didn't sit well with you. Sometimes it's migraines, sometimes it's skin conditions, but they're all inflammation, is what I'm telling you, okay? Pay attention to what those foods are. If you notice that you're having any of those symptoms, it's worth going back on those days and say, what did I eat today? I need to write that down or log it in my phone. Because on enough of those not so great days, some common denominators are going to start to pop up. Those are not your friendly foods. I call those longevity foods, the foods that sit well with you and your biology. The ones that keep popping up on reactive days, that's worth testing, because I bet you just discovered a reactive food. Then I would take it a step further and get it tested. I would go even further and heal your gut. By the way, if you're here month 3, we go into gut health. So I hope you come back for that one, because we will go into details on how to do that. Test those if any of them are in question. Okay, so now we're getting into the basics. So we did the basics of nutrition, but there are other basics to your health that we just cannot ignore. If you ate all the right things and you ignored some of these very basic things to your health, you're still not quite there yet. Okay, and this one is so overlooked. I laugh because, and I'm guilty of doing it myself. We have, if we get a headache, it's like, instead of just drinking water, we'll pop a pill sometimes. Like, maybe I just need water, or more sleep. Let's start with the basics. Sometimes it is that easy, but we're plugged into this fast-paced world that demands so much of us, and we forget to slow down and take care of ourselves. That's the honest truth. And I'm telling you, remember to slow down and take care of yourself once in a while. How much water, you ask? Easiest way to put it. Think of the number of your body weight, divide that in half, throw ounces behind it. That's how much you want to drink a day. Now, if you exercise, you need to increase that number. We are also living in an elevated state. We are in the mountains. Even more water is necessary. Pregnancy, obviously, given the health condition, right? So a way to prevent yourself from overeating, a simple trick, water, large glass of water before every meal. Now our body, this is one thing that is kind of annoying about it, hunger pains feel the same as thirst pains. So we immediately want to reach for food. And I don't blame you, I get it. But often we're just thirsty. We're often just dehydrated and we need water. So what I'm going to tell you is reach for water first. First thing in the morning, good gut hygiene, lubricate it first. Drink water first. Then it's ready for solids. Okay? Drink it for good gut hygiene once again. Drink your liquids outside of mealtime. You're diluting your enzymes. But also it's better digestion. Worth noting if anybody has gut issues. Okay? Drink between every meal. It's an easy way to prevent yourself from overeating. Drink first if you think you're hungry, because I guarantee you at least half the time you're just thirsty. Okay? There's some hydrating options there. She has some great options there. By the way, coconut water is known as nature's Gatorade. Great electrolytes in it. It's one of the things I would sip on during a triathlon. And I would also have some salt in it too to make it alkalizing. Okay, movement. If you guys rolled your eyes, I get it. I love it now. I used to hate it. Now I crave it. But I want to give you different reasons to exercise that aren't even on there. Not because you hate your body, but because you love it. Okay, maybe that's too hard for you to digest right now. I sit in front of people with cancer all the time that physically are unable to, and they wish they had. And that shifts my perspective big time on days that I don't feel like working out. I literally go in the gym and I say, I'm going to do it for so-and-so today. It is a privilege, if you can move, to be able to move. It is a blessing and a privilege, and I hope you see it as such. You do not need to kill yourself, though. You can actually find movement you love, and I hope that you do. That can be yoga, that can be walking. Walk in nature, 2 birds, 1 stone. That's very meditative. That energy is amazing. Find what you love. Swimming. If your joints hurt and you say, everything I do hurts, have you tried swimming? Have you tried water aerobics? There's something. There's something. I would say get curious. Figure out what works for you. Now, if somebody comes to me with cancer and their body, their energy needs to go inward towards their healing, I would say don't stress your body out too much. Certain autoimmune conditions, we cannot afford for them to add to their cortisol, which is their stress hormones, right? Their inflammation. So movement will need to be something like gentle, like yoga or walking. So keep that in mind if you do have a health condition. You need to be mindful of the movement that you do. But still move. Mentally, you need to move as well. Mentally, it's hard for us to be stuck in one position. And by the way, it is so against our biology to sit at a desk for 8+ hours a day. We are not designed to do that. Under artificial lights, it's like all the worst design for our biology and our mental health. So more reason to move, okay? But yeah, there's some ideas. Hopefully you try one of them. Just get curious, and I'll say that with food. You need to have a diversity of food. So when you go to the grocery store, get curious, try something new. I like to think that I'm aligning my mental and physical health when I'm working out. Find your why. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Okay, but please don't think that you can. I have people try to out-exercise a bad diet all the time. That doesn't work midlife. And if any of you have experienced that when your metabolism changes, that's fun. Okay, that will not work forever. But also, you can never fool your cells. You can never fool your cells. If they are not getting the nutrients that they need, they are not getting the nutrients that they need. Doesn't matter how much you're working out. Okay? Down the road, disease will manifest if they've been deprived for years. So, you cannot make up for, they cannot compensate for each other. There's a place for nutrition and movement. But most of your health will happen in the kitchen, I will say that. And yes, I have to go here. I absolutely have to go here. Because like I said, we're plugged in this crazy matrix of a world where we are in front of screens, stress levels are insane, and we don't offload that enough. And let me tell you, stress in the body, scientifically speaking, becomes acidic to your body. And if you're not offloading that, however that looks, for some people that's talk therapy or therapy of some form. Okay? Some people, it is physical movement. For me, that's one of my favorite ways to offload, is exercise. Some people, it's time in nature. Some people, it's writing. Some people, it's art. Find your thing, is what I'm telling you. And how you find it is what brings you peace. Do more of it. Offload. You've got to offload because it's acidic to your body to hold on to stress. It literally increases cortisol in your body. Okay? There's some ways to do that. Sleep, you guys, you could be doing all the right things, but if you're running on fumes, you're always going to be in a deprivation. So we have what's called a circadian rhythm, which is your body's natural 24-hour rhythm or 24-hour clock. Okay, about 10 o'clock, it was when, this is assuming you're in a normal rhythm, you don't have a blue light, AKA a screen in front of your eyes in bed. Again, I've been guilty of that. I've had to literally move my phone completely away from my bed. If you're in a natural rhythm, healthy rhythm, your brain will start to release melatonin around 10 p.m. But if a blue light is in front of your eyes, you delay that process. And now you're interrupting some of your sleep. Did you know that? So that's how important it is to unplug. You need to schedule a time to unplug. And exercise in the day, not late in the day, but midday or early can help with that. Cooler room temp, I find that a lot of people need help with this part. So I'm going to leave it up here for a second. Okay? This will, alcohol at night definitely prevents you from going into deep sleep. I don't need to tell you this one, but stress, this is another reason we need to offload, so we can actually get into REM. Okay, now eating. I stop eating 3 hours before bed because you might be sleeping, your GI, your gut, is still digesting, and you are not getting adequate sleep because of that. So it interferes with your good quality sleep if you ate right before bed. It's also good gut digestion, once again, if you can give it a break 2 to 3 hours before bed. Okay? And then, you need to hear it. We all want results immediately, and I wish that's how it worked, but like I said, part of the process is changing this with your body. And so you need to remember that the day you plant the seed is not the day you eat the fruit. But if you can be patient, the reward is great. That's called longevity. And it's absolutely worth it. And it took me a minute to get it, and it's something you commit to every day, I will tell you that. It's not a one and done thing. But I don't say that like it's a chore. Once you taste what health feels, it becomes a no-brainer on what choice you're going to make. Because I remember when I finally got to that place and I started to teach it to clients, I thought if I could just bottle this up and have clients drink it, and then they could immediately feel their best and feel what that felt like, my job would be done. They would sign up for this for life. I want that for each of you, and I know you want that for you. I'm showing you the how, but after this is what matters. So I will say, I mean, there's going to be ongoing support from me and Andrea. This is going to be important to anchor in, your why. And a number on the scale cannot be it. That can be part of the goal, but it isn't your anchor. It needs to be deeper rooted. It cannot be a pant size, a dress size, a number on the scale, anything artificial. Tie an emotion to it. And write down the reasons you deserve to experience good health. And then if some people are not in a place to be able to do that with themselves yet, and I understand that. And if that's the case, then you write down the meaning and value it'll bring to your loved one's life if you were thriving. And let that be your why for now. But it needs to be a deeper rooted why. And when it gets tough and you want to revert back to old habits, you revisit that why. Okay? So Andrea and I are going to continue this journey with you. And if you want to continue it with us, we do have upcoming programs. We're going to take some questions right now. How are we doing on time? Yeah, we're great on time. We have like 10 minutes. So we do have more classes next month. I'm really excited about this one, is on inflammation, anti-inflammatory diet and lifestyle. The following month after that is gut health and restoration. Okay, so that's the Biohack, your health and nutrition classes. I'll leave this up here so you guys can come up and get the QR code. I believe they have flyers around too with it. And then in September, Andrea and I are also doing a detox program. So if you want to take it the next level and really reset your gut, we wrote smoothie recipes, detox recipe, tea recipes, and then it's a meal plan as well, and there's phases to it. Smoothies into solids, etc. So that's a hard reset on, and it'll break sugar and caffeine addiction.
So I'm going to jump into the other thing I've made for you, which is a combination of bone broth and like a stock. If, yeah, take it and then like pass it back. You guys know what bone broth is. You've heard about like how great it is for you. Bone broth. Bone broth is basically cooking down the bones so that you're getting all of that amazing, the gelatin, the collagen, you're getting a lot of the amino acids and stuff out of, usually it's chicken bones. There's also a lot of beef as well. I've combined that with a mineral stock. And some of this comes from going to a very traditional macrobiotic culinary school where everything was old-fashioned and beans and grains and, you know, from the earth kind of cooking, and very holistic, but also then working in French kitchens and like what actually tastes good. And so I've created a little bit of this mix of the taking bone broth, which I only do mine for 6 hours, versus like 6 to 24 is what a bone broth can be. So I've kind of married it in between, and then I've included all these amazing vegetables and herbs to create flavor. And again, like I said, the minerals that you're going to get from this. So we shared with you the smoothie as like this superfood. Do you want some? And then this is my other version of an incredible mineral and nutrient dense. Do you want it? No? Okay. This other food that's incredibly nutrient dense. And if any of you have like gut issues, like healing our gut is like pretty much like the foundation of what's going to help you digest all the macronutrients and micronutrients and everything. And broth can be one of those things that does it for you. Yeah. Yeah. What do you guys think? So I have all the vegetables here for you to kind of like see everything. So again, like I've combined the properties of cooking down the chicken bones. And this is the hardest thing. I don't know what it is about finding it. I want the wings with the tips because you're getting like all this great collagen from the tips. And man, this is so hard to find in the store because they've trimmed them because they're making it like for wings. And so this one's really hard to find. So when you find it, like keep that. Because like most of mine is just chicken wings, but then I use backs, necks. I might roast a whole chicken and then pull all the meat apart and then put the rest of the bones like in the freezer for when I'm ready to like do a big pot. And then there's things like the onion, celery, carrot. Those are pretty traditional. But I've then included things like kombu. Does anybody know what kombu is? Kombu is a seaweed, and it's used in very traditional Japanese cooking. Kombu is incredible for your digestion. And so this is what I learned to put in my stock back in culinary school. and it gives a little bit of a saltiness and also just the minerals from it. So I actually brought my big package. I have a big package of kombu and some Ziplocs if anybody wants to go home with a piece of this. It is hard to find in the stores. Whole Foods will have it kind of in the Asian section sometimes, and sometimes it depends on how big the store is. I haven't seen it at Harmon's. Asian markets, yeah. Yes, absolutely. That's exactly what you can do. But then like things like celery root is this ugly little thing. I trim off kind of all the other stuff around it, and this has a little bit of like healthy starch and flavor, and it's basically a root. There's fennel. I do things like dried mushrooms go in there as well, and juniper berries and some peppercorns. So the flavor is very vegetable forward, I would imagine, that you guys think, right? Like when I tasted it, I was like, I barely taste the chicken at all. I taste a lot of those vegetables. And so again, you'll see in the recipe, that quantity is for my stock pot that's twice as big as that. So I have a stock pot that's a 3-gallon, because if I'm gonna make it, I'm gonna make a lot. So if you don't have anything that big, if you've got something like this, just cut everything in half. Just do half. And then I go in the freezer with it. So you don't can it? You water bath it? I don't. I will tend to. You absolutely could water bath it.
Unlike you, I would probably freeze it because I don't want to freeze it.
Yeah. Yeah. But always, as far as when it comes to like bacteria and food safety, let it cool on the counter. Let it cool completely without a lid on it. And what I will do is, like I have a lot of containers like this. Don't ever put your hot liquid like directly into the plastic. I will wait till it's completely cool, or I'll leave it in metal, or I'll leave it in the pot until it's cool. But like I'll leave this like on the counter with no lid on it and let it cool completely, and then I'll put it into the refrigerator still with no lid on it. You really want to let everything cool down before you trap a lid on it, and you trap the heat inside, and that's how bacteria grows. And that'll just keep your food lasting longer. Yeah. All right, you guys. Well, that is our class. Thank you so much.
Yes.
I hope you learned some stuff. Yeah.
Thank you for coming.